soul challenger, I'm the road damager. Now behold the cold and the straight magical. Cause the sky brings flowers and the strong grow weary. The heroes built blood and a blast and a fury. Pray on the power and pray to your father. Cause all of the quakes in the universe resonate to your heartbeat and your faith.
Ladies and gents, Tyson here. Welcome back. I just got back from Portugal. Oh my gosh, it was a good trip, but I'm so burnt. It's sort of a tan. It's not, is it? It's not tanned yet. I look like a tomato. So we got to Lisbon. We spent a night there. I was introduced to the wonderful world of fado. I think I'm saying it right, where the locals sing the most amazing music to you while you eat your meal. It was an amazing, like a really pretty culture shock. I had no idea about Portugal. If you haven't been, you should go. Honestly, I'm going to start working for TripAdvisor and just recommend Portugal everywhere. I don't even know if that's a thing. Anyway, it's good to be home. It's embarrassing what I look like now, though, but I'm sure it's just going to get really, really tan soon. We went to a place called Albufeira, which is like a really nice coastal town. We got up one morning, the weather was 27 degrees. We hadn't experienced weather like that for ages, so I said to Jessie, babe, let's just go down, get a suntan. She was keen. We got sunscreen, put it on our skin, laid on the beach for 6 hours, and you shouldn't do that. I know, I'm from Australia. I've heard all about slip, slop, slap. I did one of those things, but I think we got the weak sunscreen because as soon as I got home, it was just my mum would have been so angry at me. Anyway, there was no blisters, thank God for that. But it's good to be back. I'm back in London now where the weather is currently freezing. I've got a jumper on. It's overcast outside. People say Melbourne weather's bad. I tell you what, around Europe it's up and down like anything. But while I was away, I decided I took a week off work. I took a week off everything. And I love those moments because it's really cool just to reflect. And I don't know, if you're anything like me, I think sometimes I get so busy in the chaos of life that I forget to focus on the things that are really important to me. And it was a nice week just to spend with Jessie and eat some good food, travel around, experience a new culture. And just during the downtime there, I was thinking about what I wanted to share with you guys on the podcast this week. And I wrote a blog post about a year and a half ago now. It was the first blog post I ever wrote, and I called it 29 Years, 29 Life Lessons. And to this day, it's one of the most popular blog posts I've ever written. I got a really cool response. I think it was a combination of things. It was a really honest post. It shared both my strengths, my weaknesses, my goals, my visions, my hopes. It was pretty much just a big compilation of things that I hope helps other people. But what's funny about it, it's one of those things that I always go back to because even though I've learnt these things, it's like one of those lessons I know on like a headspace level. But when it comes to actual living it out, I tell you what, I need to hear it more than anyone. But I just turned 30 in March this year. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to do a special celebratory. Did I say that right? You know what I'm trying to say. Celebratory podcast this week where I share the equivalent of the blog posts in like a podcast style. So I'm just going to spend I don't know, 25 minutes just going through 30 things that I've learned in 30 years of life. And now, man, if you've got other things to contribute, can you please let me know? These are just observations from me. These are things that I'm starting to figure out and things that have just added massive value to my life. But as I say, so open to hearing any more. So, without further ado, let me get into it. I've got them right here in front of me. No particular order. Just want to make that clear. Get a notepad out if you're interested, or if you just want to challenge what I have to say because they're ridiculous. Feel free to do that as well. Number one, I've written slow down. I think the pace that we operate in this life is so quick. I mean, in the Western culture, you just got to look at the speed that we operate. It's all about, you go to school to get good grades. You go to uni to get good grades so you can get a good job, so you can keep climbing the corporate ladder, so you can earn more money to buy a house. We operate at a crazy pace. And I think, though, hey, business is fine. I think sometimes the speed that our culture operates can stop us from seeing the things that are really important. I think slowing down from time to time is just an amazing way just to get perspective on the things we really value, on where we would really like to place our time and energy. I mean, our life doesn't just have to be all about the office and all about business. In fact, I think when we look back at our life, or when our eulogy is being read, and we imagine what we would like to be said on those things, it really puts into perspective how we'd like to be remembered and what our biggest priorities are. The second thing I've written is food is the best medicine. I think this is the most underrated bit of advice we've possibly ever heard. I mean, I was on the tube a couple of weeks ago, and there's all these ads for this thing called Well Man and Well Woman. I don't even want to talk about the product because it sounds ridiculous. Their slogan was busy, tired, always traveling. Take this pill. It'll help sort of rejuvenate you. And I thought, what a ridiculous way to operate our life. I mean, you go into a supermarket and there's all this packaged food. There's all this stuff that's trying to yell at you about how healthy it is. I think one of the best things that I've learned, was it Aristotle? Who said it? It's not Aristotle. I'm going to tag him in the show notes. It begins with a H, and I can't think of his name right now. He says, "Hey, food's the best medicine." How true is it? We don't need more pills. We don't need more tablets. We don't need food that shouts to us about how healthy it is. We just need to shop for food that's as close to its natural state as possible. I mean, there's incredible benefits. If you read The Blue Zone Solution by Dan Buettner, you're going to hear a bit more about this. The oldest, healthiest centenarians in the world, there's 6 places, and they all have an incredible focus on natural, healthy, really just clean food that they eat. It doesn't take a genius to see that it's super beneficial. Number 3, you don't need more money, you need less stuff. Isn't it true? I'm sure you all relate with this. Our culture is obsessed with more. We love the idea of being able to use our hard-earned money to put towards really nice things, and that's fine. I mean, I'm a big fan of having nice things as well, but I think a lot of us get confused about the fact, thinking we need more and more and more money, but we never consider that maybe we actually just need less stuff. I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? I think I read the other day that in Australia, the average household debt, I could have this wrong, I hope I'm right, is close to $20,000, $21,000 a head. I mean, the stress that comes with that. And it's cool to drive a nice car and own a nice house, but I think what's even cooler is the stress-free sort of lifestyle that comes with living within your means without trying to just earn more and work more so you can buy more. Maybe consider just owning a little bit less stuff. The minimalists have an amazing game. It's 1 month of minimalism. I'm going to post that in the show notes because I think it really puts into perspective how much we own that we don't really need. The average American household has over 300,000 items in their house, which is ridiculous. It's hard to even comprehend. And the amount of money and debt that's accumulated to be able to purchase these things is huge. So, hey, rather than buying more stuff, get rid of some stuff. Rather than earning more money, stop using so much. Number 4, practice meditation. This is a game changer for me. I got to shout out to my cousin Jamie Davidson here. He's a Buddhist. He's just a legend. He's the most patient, chilled out, just loving guy that I reckon I know. He taught me about meditation a while ago. I spoke to him. I try and be open and honest about the anxiety that I feel from time to time and just the personal challenge that I have in my mindset, because I hope that you find comfort in that, because it's nice to know that that other people are dealing with the same stuff that you probably don't like to talk about. But meditation, I've spoken about it heaps on here. I'm very new to it. I've been doing it for about 2 years. It's a great introduction to take a step back from the racing minds that a lot of us have. I mean, so many of us fill our days with just anxious thoughts about nothing really. And meditation was a great introduction to just taking a step back away from that mind and realizing that there's actually another layer of reality that you can enjoy. It's so easy. I laugh as I say this because I think meditation, it's something I find difficult. Because it's hard just to sit still. When I first started, my mind was just racing. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to do this. But like anything, like the gym, like whatever it is that you do, I think the more you do it, the more you realize how much easier it gets. The more you do it, the better you get, obviously. I couldn't recommend it enough. The Headspace app is an amazing app to do it. The Calm app, you've got a lot of options. Just jump online, you'll find a few there. Don't trick yourself that your mind's too busy to do it. Hey, that's what it's for. All our minds are busy. It's a great place to start. Number 5, keep it simple. I don't know if I need to say any more on that one. Just that one can mean what it means to you, but I think our lives are overcomplicated and simplicity is often the best way. Number 6, I've written exercise because the older I get, the more I realize that it's cool to focus on your career. It's cool to focus on, climbing the corporate ladder. It's cool to invest time and energy into all of that stuff. But I think when we really take a step back and look at our life, we'll realize that without health, every other area of our life suffers. It's nice to get up and work hard and, commit more and more and more time and take less sleep. But unless we're exercising our body, unless we're nurturing it, unless we're creating a foundation for every other part of our life to flourish, all areas of our life are going to suffer. I think exercise is an incredible way, just to be able to invest into the muscles and invest into the body that we've been given. You want to thrive in any other area of your life. Well, make sure you're nurturing the vessel that you're traveling in. Number 7, lose the distraction. The distractions that actually fill our days is something that gives us this false illusion of productivity. I think in a world obsessed with productivity, we think the busier we are, the better. But a lot of what we're busy about is not actually important. So I think just being able to put barriers, being able to put sort of limitations on the distraction in your day, whether it's putting your phone away until the evening, or whether it's allowing yourself an hour on the internet each day, or turning off the TV, or having a screen-free Sunday, which I'll add in the show notes. I think this allows us to have the freedom to be able to think about what we really value. It seems to keep coming back to that. A few years ago, number 8, I went to learn a bit about Buddhism. It's something that I'm really interested in. I love the teachers that they had at Melbourne, the Melbourne Buddhist Centre. But one night, I'll never forget the monk that was sitting there. He was speaking about anxiety and how anxiety does nothing. He says, which is point number 8, by the way, anxiety does nothing. I think if I'll look at my own life, my own example, every situation that I ever find myself in, I'm either anxious or I'm not anxious. The crazy thing is, the anxiety that I feel does absolutely nothing. I mean, the way that this Buddhist monk taught it, he said, if you can do something about it, then there's no point worrying about it. He said, but if you can't do anything about it, well, there's no point worrying about it. Your anxiety does nothing. And I think on a practical sense, or on a headspace level, this is really easy to understand. But I think in the moments of anxiety, it's a lot more difficult. This is one that I really need to focus on, and maybe you do too. Number 9 is doing less makes you more organized. This was a massive breakthrough for me, and it sounds incredibly simple on the surface, and it is. But as I've mentioned a couple of times, our culture is obsessed with productivity. Our culture has apps and calendars and routines and schedules to allow you to get more done in less time. And forever, I just assumed I was a disorganized person, because I was in workplaces with amazing people who were incredibly gifted when it came to admin. And I was trying to adopt their work-life strategies. I was trying to get as much done as they were. And I kept beating myself up. And I think I had a reputation as being disorganized, whereas now that's completely different. I would say I'm one of the most organized blokes I would know. I think Jesse would agree with that. But that's because I'm doing less. I've spent some time establishing my real priorities and trying to eliminate the excess, trying to eliminate the stuff around that. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that when you have less to organize, it makes it easier to organize. So doing less certainly makes you more organized. Create a blueprint for your life is number 10. I spoke about this in a mindset mini-series last week. A blueprint for your life is just giving you some clarity. It's an idea of what it is that you want to achieve. I think the easiest way to figure out what you want to achieve is to think about how you'd like the people you love most to speak about you at your funeral. I think it sounds really morbid, and maybe it is, but I think nothing clarifies what it is you want to achieve like the realization that you're not going to be here forever. Creating a blueprint for your life allows you to think about how you'd like to be remembered. When you think about how you'd like to be remembered, it makes it a lot easier to clear out the crap and start focusing on the really essential. For me, the blueprint, the most important parts of my life are broken down into 6 categories. That's my faith, which also doubles as growth, my family, my health, my communication, my contribution, whether that be time or money to things that I believe in, and adventure, just getting out, seeing the world, seeing how other people operate, seeing how other people live. I mean, in my life now, I try and limit my commitments to those things, and anything on the on the outskirts of those, I try and eliminate as much as I can. Number 11, write down your goals. A guy that I'm trying to get on the podcast in the next few weeks taught me this when I was in year 12. He said when he was a young guy, he wrote down 100 things that he wanted to achieve in his life. He said 10 years later, he looked back at what he wanted to achieve, and he realized that without even really thinking about it, he had done a lot of these things. Now, I just want to be cautious when I say this. I'm not saying that just because you write it, it's going to happen, but I think on a subconscious level, just writing down, it's like a blueprint, writing down your goals. It just gives you some clarity. It gives you some direction. It gives you some confidence in where it is that you're going. I mean, you don't have to step out and just freestyle it. You can have a little bit of an idea about where it is that you want to go. It doesn't mean it'll all work out that way, but I think the confidence and the clarity that comes with having an idea is really powerful. Number 12, and I can see this one from personal experience on a whole heap of different areas. Fail massively at something. From the age of 12, I set myself out to run at the Olympics. I spoke about it pretty openly that was my goal, and I trained hard for it, and I think I trained as hard as any of the great athletes all around the world. But whether it was natural talent or health or whatever it was, I didn't get the opportunity to compete at the Olympics. But the adventures and the stories and just the experiences that came with attempting that are things that I'm so grateful and so proud of myself for. 2015, I set out to climb Mount Everest. I'd never climbed mountains before, and I tell you what, I'm learning as I go here. But I don't say that to blow my own trumpet. I say that because I had to attract a lot of attention to the mission, because I needed $100,000 worth of sponsorship. So I was pretty vocal about what I was trying to do. I went away to Nepal for a 1-month training camp. I got food poisoning. The company that I was with said I had to climb 2 mountains because of the food poisoning. I didn't get up the first one. I got up the second, more difficult one. But I had to climb 2 to be able to qualify to climb Mount Everest. Didn't work out, but I tell you what, the stories that came with that were incredible. Another thing I'm really proud of, the last one, and one that's just a funny story, is when I finished my running in 2014, I wrote a letter to every AFL club because a friend of mine, a competitor that I used to race with, Mark Blitzavs, got drafted to the AFL club in Australia, Geelong, as an elite level draft pick from running. And I thought, if he can do it, maybe I can. I had a history in football. So I wrote a letter to every AFL club, and not expecting to hear anything, but my mum used to always say the worst they can say is no. 2 AFL clubs got back to me: Fremantle Football Club, who I met with and met with a couple of the scouts, and Melbourne Football Club. I went and met with the coach at the time, Paul Ruse, and a couple of the selectors. And at the time, it was an amazing experience to be in the room with these guys and being considered as a potential pick. Obviously, it didn't happen, otherwise you would have known about it. But it was a failure. I mean, the goal that I'd set out with was not achieved. But I think looking back at that now, I laugh at myself. I'm proud of myself. I'm sort of impressed with that attitude. I want to be a guy who attempts huge things, and I'd love to encourage you to be a person who attempts huge things and fail massively at it. Hey, I think a lot of us, what's sadder than failing at something that we've attempted is never setting the milestones for our potential high enough and never having to be challenged. So maybe there's something that you've been holding out for a long time. Hey, risk failing at it, because the worst place that you're going to be in is where you are right now. It doesn't matter. You're going to build amazing stories along the way. Number 13 is action beats knowledge. I mean, we live in a world right now that we have information. We have just... I just think a lot of us put too much emphasis on building knowledge when implementing that knowledge is so much more powerful. You learn so much when you're trying to put it into practice than when you're just accumulating and putting that knowledge in your mind. Number 14, disappointment is a temporary lack of perspective. I learnt this from my great wife, who learnt it from a great preacher called Tim Keller. I think so many of us set out with goals and ambitions and dreams, and sometimes we fall short. And sometimes we think, oh man, like, why was it that I even attempted that? Why did I try that? And I'm sure you're like me, you've sort of experienced this in your own life, maybe hundreds of times. But I think as you look back, you realize that the path that you were sort of treading, though it didn't work out the way that you expected it to, there was a plan going on. And I think sometimes when you lose faith in the fact that there's something greater at work than what you might be able to put your finger on, it makes disappointment not so big. In fact, disappointment is purely just a temporary lack of perspective. Jedediah Jenkins, a great writer who's on Instagram, I'm going to tag this post so you can read it. It's got this amazing photo of him in front of a massive canyon where he speaks about how the water had worn down these rocks over years and years. He says, I bet the water used to be so sad about the fact that it was being destroyed, but the scene and the view that it created through those years of just grinding away at that rock had created the most amazing picture. He said, now I bet that water boasts. I wonder if the disappointment that you've experienced is actually just something beautiful that you haven't been able to put your finger on being created. Number 15, another one. So easy to say, so much more difficult to implement. Not everyone's going to like you. I struggle with this one. I'm a people pleaser. I'm a type 7 on the Enneagram. I want people to like me. It's my goal. I want to go into a room and make an impression, encourage people, and I want to leave that room and know that those people like me. But in fairness, my personality is annoying. It does my head in sometimes. I don't know how my wife puts up with it. But the fact is, I'm afraid to say it, you're the same. Some people aren't going to like you. And one of the most freeing things for me is to remember that it's far better to be the most authentic version of yourself than some second-rate version of someone else that you like. So, hey, try and take the confidence and try and take the step out into being a little more like you and a little less like that person that you wish you were. Number 16, there's comfort in numbers. There's so many things I can say about this. I think on a personal level, I find it easy to go with the crowd. On a practical level, I think sometimes the comfort that comes in numbers can steer you away from the truth. I think the fact that just because everyone believes it can give us confidence that we're right, but just because we all believe ourselves as right doesn't make us right. Don't just follow the crowd. Take some time to look into the issue. Take some time to really understand what it is before you just follow what the media says, what the newspaper says, what the person you admire says, what the group that you're around says. Find out for yourself. Number 17, this is funny. I think it is because I know on a personal level how hard this is to actually implement. When a wise person offers you harsh advice, it'll probably help you. There's so many smarter people in this world than me, and so many of them correct me on the areas that I go wrong in, and I hate it when they tell me because I think they're bastards and they're pricks and they just don't know what it is that I can see that they can't see. But time and time again, not always, time and time again, when a wise person offers me harsh advice, they're right. And I should just shut up and take their advice a lot of the time. I had this conversation with Jessie just the other day. It must be so frustrating for parents who say they have their kid at 30, the kid grows up, and at 17, 16, the kid apparently knows everything. I'm at that age now where I realise that my mum and dad actually know a whole heap of stuff that I've probably ignored them for for a long time. And the harsh advice that they often gave me was often for my own good. So that's a good one to remember. Number 18, we're getting there. Yeah, I hope you guys are doing okay. Maybe pause me. Go get a drink. You got a coffee? If you're okay, let's keep going. Unpause me. You ready? Let's keep going. Number 18, you're more powerful than you think. You're talented. You're gifted. You might not have noticed exactly where that talent and gift is right now, but you have unique abilities that you find a lot easier to do than I would. I always tell this story about me and my best mate, Jocka, back in Melbourne. It doesn't matter how many times I go to the gym and train. This guy can come in and out bench press me any day of the week. It doesn't matter if he hasn't trained for 2 years. Naturally, he's better at it. He's stronger. He's better. He's wired to be able to do that. He knows he's good in this area. But you're more powerful than you think. I think a lot of us just don't spend any time thinking about where our gifts are. I think we compare ourselves, or we might compare our weakness to someone else's strength and just assume that we're just not as good as that person. Rather than doing that, why don't you take a little bit of time to write down where it is that you're actually powerful, what it is that you're actually good at, and start investing in that area. We need you to do that. I mean, there's so many people on this planet that if they weren't doing their things the way they were doing it, the inspiration that I've felt and the people around me have felt, it just wouldn't be there. So please be authentic. Please tap into that talent. You're far more powerful than you may have realized yet. Number 19, your focus dictates your feelings. We did this in the Mindset mini-series a couple of weeks ago. What you look for, you're going to see. It's the reason that your grumpy auntie always sees the worst and your happy uncle always sees the best, because you can train your brain to continually see what it is that you're looking for. In fact, I was watching a thing on neuro-linguistic programming the other day, which is essentially the way your language affects your brain. And I was saying that like a path that you walk through grass, if you do that walk long enough, you're going to eventually see that path trotted into the actual grass. Your brain works the same way. You continually use a nerve in your brain to see certain things, and that becomes so strong, that eventually that's the only way that your mind can go. But you can adjust that. You can change that. You can start to change the way you feel by changing your focus. Quick one before we move on. The best way to change your focus, I've found, is to change the questions that you ask yourself. When you make a mistake, don't resort to, why am I such an idiot? Ask yourself, okay, what can I learn from this? How is this helping me? How is this growing me? It's not ignoring the facts. It's simply taking a fresh approach on how to see it. And I think, honestly, it's a far more powerful approach. Like a gym membership, though, it's going to take you time. You're going to have to keep coming back to it day after day, because like any gym membership, you go there for day one, you'll get sore. You don't want to go back because you haven't seen the results straight away. Your mind works the same way. Continually practice changing the way your focus dictates your feelings. And naturally, over time, it's going to take practice. You're going to start seeing things in a more positive light. Number 20, God, energy, spirit, greater power, love, insert any description that you prefer, is bigger than our words. I think this one's powerful for me. From a young age, I was always really interested in spirituality, and I always just had this feeling that there was a greater hand at work in this life. And for me, I still do. And I mean, I've had some amazing debates and discussions with people who completely disagree and completely agree, and it doesn't bother me too much what other people think. But I think there's a big problem when it comes to religion, because a lot of people miss what it is that religion is trying to teach. I think if religion is the vessel, the God or the spirit or whatever that contains, I think a lot of us get caught up on the outskirts, on the superficial. I think we get caught up on the language. I think we get caught up on the preachers. I think we get caught up on the things that have gone wrong. But I think when you can get beyond the religion and can get beyond the vessel to find out what it is that it's actually carrying, you realize that there's a really powerful message there that though we get caught up on language a lot of the time, I think when you can look past the language and see that there's something greater than us at work, it's really powerful. This is one that obviously has been debated for thousands and thousands of years. I'm not trying to convince you, but for me, I've just realized that God, or whatever it is that you like to call it, is far bigger than a preacher can ever describe. Number 21, your past does not equal your future. You've had some failures, you've had some shortcomings, you've fallen a few times. Hey, don't stress. Don't stress. That's all wisdom. That's all lessons. That's all learning. It doesn't mean your future is going to be the same way. Don't dictate or don't believe that your future is going to be dark just because your past has been. Reggie Dabbs, a great school speaker from the States, this is his message. Your past doesn't equal your future. Write a new story for yourself. If you're caught up in where it is that you have been, don't be. Write down what it is that you want to achieve. Write down what it is that you're going to try and go for. But your past does not equal your future. Number 22, this is great advice from my old pastor at City Life Church's dad, Kevin O'Connor. He says, that which goes hot easily goes cold easily. Now, for all you entrepreneurs and for all you creatives out there, this is going to ring home so true. If you're anything like me, every day I wake up, I have 57 new ideas about how I'm going to change the world with a new website and a new book and a new magazine and a new idea. Often, those ideas that I've written down that go super hot easily, that I want to do straight away, they go cold easily. The next day, I'm not that interested in it. Before you commit to what it is that you want to commit to, write it down. Think about whether or not you really want to commit your time to this. If it goes hot easily, tomorrow you're probably not going to care about it. But if you find over a few years that, hey, this is something that I'm really, really interested in, this is something that I really think I could contribute to, there's a good chance that you're on the right path. So, hey, stop going for the hot thing, go for the things that last. 23, learn from everyone. Just Jordan Peterson says it best. Assume that every person that you speak to has something to teach you that you need to find out. Don't be so quick just to express your opinion. This is very easy to say. I know I have my beliefs and I have my ideas, and sometimes when people challenge me on these things, I think, shut up, just let me talk. But I think that's how wars are started. We don't want to hear the other side of the story. We don't want to hear what another person has to say. Practice listening, practice trying to understand what a person's saying before you try and tell them what you think, because true communication can't happen without an understanding of each other anyway, because otherwise we're just going to end up arguing language and arguing ideas that the other person's probably not even saying. Number 24, forgive. I think Nelson Mandela says it. Unforgiveness is like drinking poison and hoping the other person will die. 25, you're in control of your emotion. No one can upset you without your permission, ever. Never. This is challenging and powerful, and I would hate it if someone told me this, which plenty of people have told me. No one can upset you without your permission. They can say what they want. You remember that old saying, sticks and stones can break your bones, but names can never hurt you? Well, it's true. It's true. You don't have to respond in a negative way because someone treats you negatively. You don't have to respond angrily because someone treats you angrily. You have complete capacity to be able to change your emotions, to be able to dictate how you feel. A lot of what we focus on, like I just mentioned, dictates those feelings. So, hey, before you blast back at someone who's blasting you, choose whether you really want to invest your energy in that way. Start to think about the control you have over your emotion and start to strengthen that emotional muscle. Number 26, we just went over this. Listen more than you speak. I need to take this more than anyone. Okay, so don't forget, these are lessons I've written to myself that I hope help you. Listen more than you speak. That's all that needs to be said there. I'm learning that. I hope you are too. 27, love is a choice. This is the best advice I've ever had before I got married. Now, I just want to clarify. I am so happily, super happily married to my best mate who I love being around, who is my best friend. But sometimes, you know what, I'm going to flip this example. Sometimes I do her head in. Sometimes she can't stand being around me. She's got two decisions in that moment. She can crack it at me. She can think, oh man, I've just chosen the wrong guy. I can move on. This love isn't working, blah, blah. We've made a decision in our relationship that love is a choice. That there's going to be moments where we go through highs and lows and situations like that. But our love our commitment to each other is no longer based solely on a feeling. So it's a decision that we've made. It's a commitment that we've made. Don't stress when the lovey-dovey feeling that you feel in the first 6 months of your relationship, where every love song makes sense and holding hands make you feel like a butterfly and all that kind of stuff. That's completely normal. Love is not a feeling. It's a decision. 28. Learn from your weaknesses before you let them go. I think often we try and beat our weaknesses just so we look more strong, so we look stronger. I think a far more powerful option than just trying to delete our weaknesses is trying to learn from it. What is it that we can actually learn and implement into our lives before we decide to get rid of this weakness? In fact, our greatest weakness can become our greatest strength. I always say that. As a young kid, I was such an anxious, nervous, uptight sort of a kid, but I think it's given me a passion to be able to help people experience the same things. Often, the weakness that you're experiencing is going to set the foundation for you to be able to share your message with other people in the same situation in the future. So don't just get rid of your weaknesses before you realize what they have to say to you. Second last one, number 29, if your inner life isn't healthy, nothing's going to satisfy you. Nothing's going to satisfy you. I always tell this story. A few years ago at my mum's house, she had this wall in her lounge room, and the wall just kept getting wet, kept getting damp, and she had to keep getting it replaced, and it was so frustrating. We couldn't figure out what was going on. Anyway, eventually we had a plumber. For some reason, the plumber came to our house. He said, guys, like, you've got a pipe inside your wall that's leaking. He said, you can replace the wall as much as you like, but until you get that pipe fixed, it's going to keep getting broken. Rather than focusing always on the superficial and changing the way you appear, focus on how you can change yourself on an internal level. Focus on how you can learn, how you can get wisdom, how you can gain inner strength. Read people from history. Learn what they had to say. A lot of people have gone through what you've already gone through. Figure out what it is on the inside that you can make healthy, because until that's healthy, it doesn't matter how much you try and adjust the outside, you're not going to feel any better. Cisco Rodriguez says it best. He says, hey, a monkey in silk, you're a monkey no less. It makes sense. It doesn't matter what you dress up in, and until you change that sort of that inner world, the outside world is completely secondary. Lucky last one, number 30. I hope you guys are doing okay. This is my favorite, and I'm just going to leave it on this note because this is probably my hero. Straight from Bob Dylan. Don't criticize what you don't understand. So many arguments happen because we don't understand the other person's point. So much tension, so much frustration comes because we don't actually take the time to understand a person before we argue with them. I mentioned this a couple of minutes ago in one of the other points, but I think it's so important. Before you criticize, take some time to understand. Guys, that's 30. I hope you're not glad I'm not 50 because that went for too long. I hope you enjoyed it. That was actually really refreshing for me to read through. It's nice. Man, I'm sure that stuff's going to be things that I'm trying to learn for the rest of my life. As I said, if you have anything that you'd like to add to this list, get in touch with me. Don't forget, I post all the show notes at my website, which is tysonpopplestone.com. Also, while you're here, guys, would really appreciate it if you guys could jump on my website. No, if you could jump on iTunes and leave a review for the podcast, that would be super, super helpful. I know a few of you have been in touch just letting me know how much you're enjoying it and how much you're gaining from this podcast, and I really appreciate that. Had people from America and Australia and here in the UK get in touch, and it's exciting to know that this message is sort of impacting people in a positive way, but would be so grateful if you could leave a review, because in ways that are probably so boring to you, it helps this podcast reach more ears. The more reviews, the more positive feedback it gets, the higher up the podcast list it goes, which just means more people get to hear it. That's about it. Guys, I'm going to leave you to it. I'm going to go get a cup of tea. I'm going to go to the gym. Going to go rub some more moisturizer into this terrible sunburn that I have. And I'm going to be back with you guys next week. Guys, big love. I hope you have a good week. Good to touch base with you, and I'll see you real soon.